Welcome to the Four Borders podcast.
So if you could just breathe more into the microphone, that'd be awesome.
This is a dumb question, but do fish drink water?
Wouldn't they absorb the water?
I don't know. Can they drink something?
I don't know if they do. I'm not sure. That's a really good question. I mean, I guess somebody, probably like a marine biologist, might know about it. Maybe somebody like Art Vandelay.
He would be more of an expert on latex.
Oh, that's right. So who's the marine biologist then?
It's just George. I don't think he changed his name when he was telling people he was a marine biologist.
Oh, I see it. That makes sense.
Yeah. The sea was angry that day, my friends. Old man at a deli trying to return soup.
And if you didn't know yet, welcome to the Four Birdies podcast. We have started. It is Tuesday, October 31st, Halloween night, 10 p.m. Let's get going, Dave. I think we hit it right at the perfect spot of the night.
Let's do it. And in honor of Halloween, you may have already noticed that we are actually wearing costumes for Halloween. And it looks like Alex got his lederhosen, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, lederhosen.
Lederhosen. Yep, and I'm actually a shark. I'm a daddy shark.
Yeah, Dave, how did you describe me earlier? Wasn't I like don't mess with the Sohan or something?
You look like you're an Amish.
Okay,
like
nice.
a trendy Amish person, maybe.
At one point, I had a pretty noticeable neck beard, and I didn't really see anything wrong with it.
What do you mean at one point you had a neck beard?
Like in my early 30s.
And not right now?
No. I mean, there is, sure, I guess that's my neck up here, but we're starting to broach like chin territory.
Okay, it's like a chin strap.
Yeah, it's definitely not a chin strap. No, definitely not a chin strap.
Drop a comment below if you think that Alex has a neck beard.
Yeah, or don't. It's really not that important. It's kind of silly because clearly I don't have. Maybe some photos would surface if I looked for them. I could definitely see if I could find a couple of those. I know exactly where to find them, actually. So let me find them, actually. Let me see. Maybe we'll even drop them in here. We'll see. Dave, we have to talk about the risers and fallers of the league and just the overall standings for our Four Birdies Football Fantasy League. I think I was supposed to be mad at you, Dave.
That was an act.
Oh, okay.
You still won your matchup.
I did win my matchup. I still won it. You are right about that. Even though you tried to sabotage me and tank my team, do your 5D chess moves. I know what you're trying to do, Dave. I saw through it.
You know what you're doing here is you're setting up a great scenario where next time you need my help, I'm going to be reluctant to give you any advice.
I don't want your help next time.
You're not going to want my advice anymore, but there's going to be a time where you're going to come to me and you're going to need my help. You're going to say, Shark Father, I need your help. And I'm going to say, no, I cannot do this for you.
If we're playing an IDP, then maybe. But if we're just playing this offensive game, then that's it. I'm good. I can navigate my own waters at this point.
Okay.
I feel like the IDP is the deep end. I feel like it's
I'm
deep pool.
You out of the nest. You're gonna have to fly on your own.
Oh, I'm flying, baby. I'm flying. Yeah, I'm flying away. I would have put up like 199 points had I played Gus Edwards and D Hop and not been sabotaged by you.
I can't believe you have 4 wins now.
Let's go. That's right. That's why you don't give up. How is your fantasy football team doing there, Dave?
Yep, so I beat Steve this week, and that feels pretty good because at one point he was a favorite to win, and I feel good about that because I can't afford to drop a game here. It's a tight race for the playoff spots, and I feel good about it. He sent me the congratulations text on Sunday, so he conceded, kind of a day early.
Wow.
He knew that it was over.
I feel like Big Steve is really like slipping in the standings here. Didn't he start out pretty hot?
He did, yeah. He's down to 9th place now, so I think he's gonna probably fire sale his team at some point.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, after he lost Justin Jefferson, it just never was the same.
Yeah, that is a huge blow. Who was the best performer for your team? Who was a surprise performer for your team?
That's a good question. Probably Gus Edwards.
I'm talking about the Four Birdies team here, Dave.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Tua, the trade for Tua finally paid off. He put up 30 points. Jalen Waddle had about 25, so that was a great stack. Austin Eckler great week one. They got hurt, and he missed a bunch of weeks, and they've been easing him back into it. He had a huge game, so that certainly helped me too. He had over 20 points. So those are my three top performers.
Well, that's good. Good for you. Congratulations. Very proud of you. I mean, you did try to sabotage me last week. You told me to play Kendrick Bourne over Gus Edwards, and you told me to play Pickens over DeAndre Hopkins, and I lost out on about, 35 potential points, but ultimately I'm the one who made the call. I'm the one who benched the guys. I turned to you for some help. I thought maybe I could trust a friend here, but obviously you're out there trying to sabotage me.
Bourne had a good game.
Yeah, until he was.
When he had that long touchdown, I said, there you go. I didn't watch the Ravens game. I'm kind of surprised he gave him so many goal line touches. It's not going to happen again. That's a career game for Gus Edwards.
Right, sure, Dave.
Don't expect it to happen next week.
I know what your 5D chess moves are here. You did it. We did. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that I asked those two specific questions, and then those two dudes had the games that they did. I mean, what are the odds? I mean, what was my intuition? I must have been locked in. I do feel really good about that. If I hadn't asked you, I probably would have made those changes. I would have been putting up a bunch of more points. Again, I made the decision to keep them in, but it's just weird to think that I asked specifically about those two guys and making those exact moves.
Yeah. How would I know that they're both going to go on to have pretty much the games of their career? I don't know of many times where Hopkins had 3 touchdown receptions in a game before. So how can you predict something like that? You did this to yourself, okay, Alex? You're your own manager. Your name is assigned to your team. If you're going to ask for advice, you got to be accepting of whether it works well or not. You can't hold it against somebody if you can't predict something like that.
Ultimately,
the information that I had, nobody was starting Hopkins. I'm pretty sure he put up like 40 points on everyone's bench that week.
Dave, I'm telling you, I just had this thought. I think Atlanta's secondary was like the 5th best. And actually, you know who's playing pretty well down there? Jeff Okudah from the Detroit Lions, who they got rid of. I think he was their 5th overall pick a couple years ago, and they shipped him out of town for maybe like a 3rd round pick. But he's been doing pretty well. And the Falcons have pretty good secondary, and I still thought otherwise. I just don't know. And it really goes back to who puts it in, who puts them in, who starts the players and all that stuff. I am my own Krokschlampe, so I'm my own worst enemy for the week. But I guarantee next week this Krokschlampe is going to do better, Dave.
The only person who started DeAndre Hopkins was DeAndre Hopkins' mom.
Oh, come on. That's not true. I think some people in Tennessee, they saw it coming. Don't just give them such little credit there. Dave, let's just quickly look at the standings here. Only Here for Jimmy is now in first place. Am I reading that right? And then we've got Ladycock Bangkok Boys, whatever Harold's name is. The Bangkok Lady Boys. And then in third, we've got Gibbs Me Another Jameson. Big Derek Energy's in 4th. Dave, you're in 5th. And then Laporta Potties is in 6th. I'm in 7th. If you'll recall, I started out pretty badly. I think I was 1-3, lost my first 2 games. I won my 3rd game by about 0.6 of a point. And Deshaun Sexual Predators was very angry that I won that, and rightfully so. He's also the same friend whose friend's ticket was given away to my daughter. So God bless Drew. A great soul. Love that guy. Hope he's going to, get some more wins here in this fantasy football season. But, I think I really made a pretty good turnaround. Dave, how are you feeling? I mean, you're sitting at what, 5-3? You must, how many teams make the playoffs here? And
I feel good. So it's a 12-team league. 6 teams make the playoffs. At this point, I feel confident that I'll get a playoff spot. I'm only 1 win back from first place, which is good. But there's going to be a pretty tough fight for the sixth playoff spot, I think, because we have 3 teams that are 4-4 right now, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see how this develops.
I'm clawing my way, Dave. I'm clawing my way. Yeah.
Two wins in a row. Nice job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Hey, let's talk about the biggest riser of the week. The biggest riser of the week is the people's tight end. Let's go, Sean. You got off the schneid. Dave, anything afoot with riser of the week?
I would say you could technically call him a riser because he went from 0 wins to 1 win.
Congratulations, Sean.
Although I would like to think that maybe, Cassie's team only here for Jimmy is the biggest riser because she's 3 wins in a row. But if you think about like starting from the bottom and now he's here, yeah, Sean could be the biggest riser. It's just 1 win. I'm proud of him that he finally got a win. We can't make fun of him anymore for being winless. Biggest fallers here, Steve with Flint Central Punters has actually lost 4 games in a row. So his team's in a free fall right now. He's got to feel pretty terrible about that. If he doesn't make some drastic moves here, he's going to miss the playoffs for sure.
Yikes, Steve.
Yep, so I beat Steve this week, and that feels pretty good because at one point he was a favorite to win, and I feel good about that because I can't afford to drop a game here. It's a tight race for the playoff spots, and I feel good about it. He sent me the congratulations text on Sunday, so he conceded, kind of a day early. Justin Jefferson sitting on Steve's IR spot's not going to help make the playoffs. He's got to move him.
Yikes, Steve. I suggest pulling your head out of your ass. Dave, let's move over to any given Sunday. That's really the rundown of the slate of games on Sunday and what you notice. You always got your eye on the red zone and you're just heads on the swivel. So what were the biggest kind of surprises that you noticed on this past given Sunday?
So as far as any given Sunday type games where you never know what's going to happen, the biggest surprise for me was the Chiefs falling to the Broncos. I know, right? So 9-24. Patrick Mahomes probably had the worst performance of his career in that game. I don't think anyone saw that coming. The Broncos have not been doing well against anybody, and the Chiefs should be the best team in the NFL. And I don't know if it's because Mahomes was kind of recovering from the flu or what happened there, but that was definitely the biggest surprise. And an additional candidate for an any given Sunday award would go to the 49ers. At this point, maybe it's not a surprise, but this is the third game in a row that they've lost where they should have been considered the favorites. They lost to the Bengals 17-31. So, yeah, I got 2 of them there. So if there's another one that I missed, comment that at the end of the video.
Dave, do you want people to write a novel down at the end of this video? Is that what you're looking for into your novel of thoughts or what?
Just trying to increase the activity there. So we're going to have lots of comments, hopefully, maybe more than one.
I'm going with one. It's probably going to be one of our own comments.
I don't think I missed them. I think that's really just 2 any given Sundays. I don't think there's any others.
Well, let's see. Mahomes, yeah, he was sick. He went to the World Series and he was sick. It seems like 1, what do you want to stay home and rest? And 2, do you really want to go out in public and get other people sick? Seems kind of reckless and irresponsible. I do like Mahomes, and I think for me it's kind of sad because all the blatant holding and all the calls that have gone for the Chiefs in their way, and at times it's so obvious that it's so easy to root against them. And therefore, I find myself Nelson laughing at Mahomes when he does have the worst game of his career. But at the same time, I like them. I don't like Kelsey that much, but I do like the Chiefs. And they're a fun team. They're a small market team. Mahomes is a great player, and Andy Reid's a nice coach. And so it's tough for me to root against them. But when your team actually starts performing well, like the Lions are doing, then, I guess that's what you have to do. You can't always be in love with a lovable loser.
I'm starting to notice it more where anytime it's 3rd and long and the Chiefs don't actually complete the pass, I'm just waiting for that flag. And it seems like a majority of the time the flags fly. Oh, there was a holding. Oh, there was a pass interference. And it just seems like the refs are constantly bailing them out and keeping their drives alive. So maybe that didn't happen against the Broncos. Maybe it was because Mahomes' sick. But I wish him a swift recovery and hopefully he gets over this illness.
Oh, bad joke, bad joke. I appreciate the joke anyway. I'm a dad, and
Yeah, I tried to tailor the joke to the audience.
I love it. I see what you're doing there, and I love it. Now, to the 49ers game, Debo Samuel's been out. He was out. I believe Trent Williams was also out. So you've got some injuries back there. I don't know if Hargrave has given them as much as they need for the defense, but I don't want to jump too far ahead because we're going to get to some trades. Big trade happened today on the Halloween day that it is. I'm going to put a pin in that for just a moment. But Debo, not having Debo back there and having a weapon for Purdy to, like kind of dump it off to, what do you think? You think that might be affecting them?
I did hear that, the theory is that since Debo has been missing games and out, they've lost the last 3 games that Debo's missed, right? I don't think that's why. He has so many weapons to choose from. I don't think Debo, like, yeah, he's a playmaker, but he's not the backbone of that team. So you got a guy like Ayuk, you got a guy like Kittle and McCaffrey, and you can't find a way to move the ball down the field.
100%. I think that's a really good point. And tons of teams are battling with injuries, right? I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had the flu in the game last night, or he had some kind of illness that he was playing through. And so, I mean, not to mention all the injuries that the Lions have every other position. I just think it's like you got to bounce back. And Purdy he's looking vincible, isn't he? He's looking vincible and beatable.
Yeah, I think the magic's starting to wear off a little bit.
Yeah, and something that I heard is that he's in a system, and I don't know if he's a system quarterback exactly, and I won't go down that rabbit hole. But maybe he's played enough games at this point where some defenders are getting his tells, right? They're starting to get his reads, and it's like playing a game of poker, as you know. You get into a table, nobody knows who you are. You're brand new. You don't have any kind of tells that you're giving away. You don't, if you're not playing against somebody regularly, you don't know how to pick up on those things. So now that Purdy's been in there, and they have game tape on him, and the other teams might be able to see, hey, when he does this, then he's going to do that. So just a thought there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's kind of fascinating. Most teams end up figuring something out eventually. Like I know Kaepernick was hot for a while, and then teams figured out a way to scheme against him. I don't know if that's what's really going on with Purdy, or if he's just in a slump, or maybe he's just being exposed as just an average quarterback that was propped up by having phenomenal weapons last year. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. They have a bye this week, which is good because they need to regroup and figure things out. And with the addition of their new defensive lineman opposite of Bosa, I think they're going to be looking pretty good with Chase Young now.
So today is again Halloween, October 31st. It's the trade deadline. What do you? I mean, we already heard the cat's already out of the bag. What do you think about that Chase Young to the 49ers trade?
I feel like the 49ers didn't have to give up a lot to get him. It's kind of odd the Commanders are getting rid of Chase Young because he's a young player. Get it? And I think he had potential, but maybe they weren't going to be able to re-sign him, or maybe they couldn't afford to, so they just parted ways. I think it's going to be a great situation for him because he's going to have, like, the 49ers are going to be able to have the highest pressure rate out of any defensive line, I think, in the league. So they're going to just wreak havoc back there. I don't know, like, financially, I think Chase Young missed out on a lot of money because he's missed so many games over the last few years. He probably would have cost, the 49ers more if he had been more consistent. So I think it's a good move for him. He's going right to a Super Bowl contender. To be honest, I think everyone knows that the Commanders are never going to really contend. So he's probably happy to be out of there. And the Commanders got small draft compensation. I want to say they got a 3rd-round pick, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess he was going to walk anyway, so they got something out of it. I think that's probably one of the biggest trades of the deadline. There was a few trades that didn't happen that I was surprised by. Surprised that Devontae Adams is staying with the Raiders. Like, how does that happen? He goes to the Raiders for Derek Carr, and then they immediately get rid of him, pretty much. And the season's lost right now. He's stuck on a terrible team. I bet he really misses the days playing for the Packers at this point. But he's one of those guys. He's competitive, and he's going out there week after week, and he's losing. I just can't believe the Raiders couldn't find a way to move him, because at this point, there's no benefit to them having him still be on the team. So they could have gotten something from a contender. I'd be curious to see what reports are. What they like? Did they even have the conversation about dealing him? Because he looks extremely disgruntled at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Any other trades that you noticed there, Dave?
So yeah, besides the Titans not moving on from Derrick Henry, that was kind of surprising. But Donovan Peoples Jones of the Browns has been traded to the Lions.
Let's go.
So
Bringing them home. Cass Tech. Let's go.
I feel like you, as the resident Lions expert, did the Lions need help at wide receiver that bad?
I feel like it was more of a value pick. I mean, when I watched the game last night, Khalif Raymond had a great reception. Josh Reynolds, I think he just had one reception. He's been pretty hot for them in the first half of the season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously one of the best receivers in the league, but then you've got Jamison Williams. Marvin Jones just left, and he had some farewell. He's attending some personal business. It looked like, yeah, maybe they did cut him, but I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But I don't know if the Lions were necessarily needed help at the wide receiving position. Yeah, I think that's a great question. So what I'm going to say, though, is I think they gave up a 6th-round pick. Would you pick Peoples-Jones? Would you draft him in the 6th round? If the draft just happened again tomorrow, he's somehow magically in the draft, would you pick him in the 6th round?
Sure, I feel like that'd be a no-brainer. Hey, you have a somewhat developed player in the 6th round. You kind of know what you're getting. A lot of times, past the 3rd round, it's a roll of the dice. It's a dart throw. You don't really know what you're going to get. So I feel like Donovan Peoples-Jones has flash potential for the Browns over the years, and I don't know if he's still going to be utilized in the return game, but I think he has potential to give the Lions some depth just in case of an injury. I think Jamison Williams has not been consistent with the drops and the play, so I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, what would he be, like the wide receiver 3, maybe the 4 on the squad? I think that was a good trade. If they only gave up a 6th-round pick for that, that's a throwaway pick in my opinion.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it. So, I mean, the Lions have gotten some serviceable players in the past couple of years in the 6th round. So that's not a complete throwaway for this front office, but yeah, I mean, for a 6th-round pick, would you pick up Peoples-Jones? Yeah, of course. So I just feel like it's one of those moves where you're increasing along the fringes there, and it's not a big splashy move. Here's the thing: is the Lions' defense. We're gonna get to this in a second when I'm talking about the Lions Raiders game a little bit more in depth. Their defense was awesome on Monday night. Their defense was freaking incredible. So for everybody to be saying, Lions fans, I've been kind of following the local news and the media. It's, hey, why didn't they go out and get Chase Young? Why did they do this, that, and the other? And it's almost like, okay, you're not gonna now. You've trusted Brad Holmes, and our slogan is in Brad we trust. And he's doing a great job 3 years into a rebuild. And then all of a sudden you're not going to, trust what he's doing. So I just think it's such a foolish thing to complain about those kinds of things. Obviously, you think you know what's better than what the general manager does, on a day-to-day. The guy's, that's his job. He's in the office every day, and he's proven to do a good job. So I just think that's a terrible take.
Yeah, and we'll get more into the Lions recap here in a moment. But back to the trades. So the Commanders also traded away Montez Sweat, a defensive end, to the Bears, which to me doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I can see the Commanders wanting to part ways and having a fire sale and get something for all of their players that might otherwise walk, because they are rebuilding, but I don't know how far away the Bears are out from actually competing. I don't know if that's going to do them much good. The Bears just need a lot of help. I know that they have a couple early draft picks next year.
I think it's 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I don't know how long it's going to take for them to actually compete. I don't know if they'll be able to keep Sweat, with the contract for more than a year or two. But that's big news because Montez Sweat, very talented defensive end. And as far as other trades go, Josh Dobbs of the Cardinals got shipped over to the Vikings, and they didn't give up much for him. I want to say a 6 round pick after they lost Kirk Cousins. They needed somebody. So they do have, I want to say, a second year. I don't know if he's a second year player or not, but Jaron Hall, who I had never heard of until just the other day, and I think he's got a few plays under his belt, but we don't know if he's going to be the starter or if Josh Dobbs will be the starter. So that's a situation to monitor. But I find it kind of surprising that the Cardinals parted ways with Josh Dobbs. I know that Kyler Murray's supposedly going to be coming back within a couple weeks, but I think Josh Dobbs did all right for the Cardinals. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback, until Kyler Murray comes back. But anyway, that's kind of a big move, I think. What we're going to see, the Vikings were playing great with Kirk Cousins. He was having probably the best year of his career, and to lose him to that Achilles injury is really just pretty devastating. So I don't know what that's going to do to the value of guys like Hawkinson or Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson when he comes back. I'm not sure if Josh Dobbs is going to be the guy or if Jaron Hall will, but I feel like whoever it is, they do have several really talented weapons in that offense, and hopefully they don't go to waste.
Hawkinson, more like Droppinson. Am I right? Come on now, man. Glad we got rid of that guy. Dave,
he's playing great.
Yeah, he is. He is playing pretty well. Although I think I was telling you the one time I went to the Minnesota Vikings subreddit, and they were just, like, he dropped a couple passes, and they were like, "Why did we pay this money for this guy?" And he's like the highest paid tight end. How? It was awesome because the Lions knew they were gonna have to pay him. So them like getting rid of Hawkinson when they did, I love it that now they don't have to pay him. They've got Laporta, who is just such a stud. He's definitely the best tight end of this class so far, and so I think it was just a great move. Dave, do you have any more injuries you want to tell us about?
Yep, so we talked about Kirk Cousins. He's going to be gone to a season-ending Achilles injury, similar to an Aaron Rodgers type injury. I don't know if Rodgers is going to come back this season or not, but Kirk Cousins definitely not. He'll be back hopefully next year. Matthew Stafford has a thumb injury. I think the injury was exacerbated with that trick play that they had. I think it made it a little bit worse. He might miss a week or two. Justin Fields might not be ready to come back yet. Daniel Jones might be ready. His neck might be doing better to the point where he could play. If he doesn't, Tyrod Taylor's hurt too, so it's
Tommy
DeVito in there. Which, real quick, there was a TD by Tommy DeVito, had a rushing touchdown in that game. I can say with confidence that did not help anyone.
Yeah, the TD being that did not help anyone.
That didn't help anyone.
It didn't. Yeah. So thanks, Tommy boy. Appreciate that. Any more injuries before we move on?
Lots of guys at this point in the season are banged up, nursing injuries. Nothing too notable outside of the quarterbacks at this point. At this point in the season, lots of players are banged up, nursing injuries. We could probably go on and on about all the little injuries each player's suffering from right now. But for sake of time, let's move on to the next segment.
Yeah, Dave, moving on. Do you have any more tips for your mom? Just like any moms out there who are getting into fantasy football or watching the game of football, any tips that you might kind of dangle in their face for them? Just an average viewer of the game, I should say.
Here's one is be patient, especially with rookies. If you end up drafting a rookie, if they don't have a great performance after week one, that's not surprising. You got to give them more time. Most rookies take a few weeks to develop. If your roster size does not allow you to have the patience to wait for a rookie to develop, maybe you shouldn't be drafting rookies, because you really do have to be patient. And some positions take longer to develop than others. So typically, like a rookie tight end or a rookie wide receiver, they're not going to have a great first couple weeks. They're going to take time. A running back typically can get off to a faster start, but in general, the biggest tip is just in fantasy football, just be patient, because you could drop a guy who ends up being a stud if you had just waited an extra couple weeks for them to get acclimated to the offensive scheme or to get their legs going. So just be patient.
I feel like you're just doing it again, Dave. You're rubbing it back in my face. You knew I picked up A-Chain. You knew I had him. You know I dropped him after 2 weeks of him not playing. And then Harold's silly ass picks him up and plays him, and he gets like 54 freaking points. So thanks, Dave. Just more salt in the wound. Appreciate it every single time there, bud.
I think it's funny. I didn't even mention the name Devin A-Chain, but you immediately thought of it. I think you got post-traumatic dropping A-Chain disorder because every time I say anything about dropping somebody, it triggers you a little bit.
I just made that whole thing up, didn't I?
Yeah, you're mad still. It's all right.
I'm still mad.
For that.
I'm mad at everybody. I'm 4-4, and I'm still mad. I gotta keep a chip on my shoulder. I think that's a really good tip for any moms out there there are a lot of moms getting into fantasy football. That's what I hear. A lot of mom leagues now. So I'm sure this is their favorite running bit of the show.
I would think for most moms, this is the place to get their tips for fantasy football.
Let's go. We've got 2 right here. We're gonna, provide so many more in the coming episodes and seasons to come. Dave, I want to give you a quick Roar update. That's Detroit Lions football. We rolled over Raiders. That's what the Roar acronym stands for right now. That game was pretty good. The score was 26-14. Could have been more. I think it should have been some more points. What I want to first do, I know you weren't able to catch some of it, or all of it, but the story of the day has to be, the number one story has to be the defense. The defense was so good. So freaking good. They allowed 1 touchdown, a Josh Jacobs touchdown. Goff threw a pick 6. That's where the Raiders got their other 7 points. But again, the Lions have stepped up, and their defense is looking really, really good. And, they had the blowout loss to the Ravens last week, and they were embarrassed. It was just a terrible look for the team and for the defense. That week, the offense, too, was just bad for the whole team. But they came back, they rebounded, and they just put up a really masterful defensive performance. What do you think? I know you weren't able to catch too much of the game, but looking at the score, what struck you, I guess?
On the stat sheet, I was curious about Aiden Hutchinson. So he got off to a great start with his pressures and his sacks, and he was really getting after the quarterback consistently. But I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, his pressure rate has dropped considerably. And I noticed at the end of the game, I think he was credited for 1 tackle. So was he getting involved off the stat sheet? Was he double teamed every play? Like why didn't he produce more tackles or a sack? He just didn't get anything done really on the stat sheet.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point right there. What I will say is it's not so much I didn't notice Hutch, it's more that I noticed other players. Like Lee McNeil was in there. One of the Aquara brothers, I think it was Julian Aquara, was in there. Brian Branch, he's back from injury, and man, he's just everywhere. He's just such a good run stopper and coming in, flying in, getting tackles. Anzalone, man, Alex Anzalone, aka Thor. He had a ton of great plays. He had a great 3rd down stop where Garoppolo was running for a first down, and Anzalone met him out there. He stopped him. He had another sack. He had just had so many great plays. Cam Sutton played great. Joseph Kirby had an interception. He had the interception right after Josh Reynolds fumbled the ball, and the Raiders could have started going down the field, but actually they were really close. I think they were pretty close to the red zone, but anyway, their defense answered again, so I was really impressed by that. And despite the 3 turnovers that the Lions had, Goff threw the pick 6, there was a Josh Reynolds fumble, and then there was also a Craig Reynolds fumble that maybe wasn't a fumble, but they ruled it that way. The Raiders only turned it over once, so the Raiders won the turnover battle. And despite that, the Lions still played really well. Their offense moved down the field a ton. Gibbs, of course, he was the national story, but I think the story I want to talk about was the defense at first. But Jahmyr Gibbs, also on my fantasy team, it always helps when you have one of your fan favorites on your fantasy team. He had a great game. Did you see some of his stat line?
Yeah, I think he put up like 150 yards on less than 20 carries, right, and a touchdown or 2. and some receptions. I mean, he stuffs the stat sheet pretty good.
Yeah, I do think it was a couple more yards and a couple more carries. He had the touchdown. He also had some receptions. He had about 190 some yards from scrimmage. So they finally got him going, and it finally looked like he had. He almost kind of plugged into that David Montgomery role where he started getting more yards just up the middle, but then he also had a couple bounce off runs where he got the touchdown. He squeezed between a couple guys. He he juked a dude, went in for a touchdown. He also had another, maybe like a 20-yard pickup where a couple guys bounced off him. And it really did. It kind of looked like Barry. It was really cool to see. Just some great runs by my boy.
I feel like that's got the potential of a reckless speculation
Oh, yeah.
that Jameer Gibbs could be the next Barry Sanders.
Yeah, I think he is the next Barry Sanders. Yes, that is. I think that's great reckless speculation, Dave. I think Jameer Gibbs is going to go on to be the best running back of all time.
The performance that he had, that's a great performance, and that's something that Bijan Robinson hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of something that Jameer Gibbs just did. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like at this point in the season, Bijan Robinson, you could say, was wildly overdrafted or overvalued. For his ADP, he's not producing. He's not the best rookie running back at this point. Maybe he's top three. But Jameer Gibbs, maybe the Lions, made the right call, passing on Bijan and grabbing Gibbs.
You know what Jameer Gibbs also did that Bijan Robinson hasn't done? After his touchdown, Gibbs jumped up. He did like the forward field leap, and he jumped up. The fans helped pull him into the stands, and he was in the stands with the fans. I've never seen a player actually get into the stands and he had his arms around people. It was going like this.
Yeah.
I've never seen
I
that.
I think that'd be like an excessive celebration penalty.
You would think so. Yeah, they definitely didn't call. I've never seen a player actually get into the stands. It was hilarious.
I saw a player get in once. It was I watched him with my college roommate. We were actually suite mates at the time. This was Seton Hall. It was Ron Artest went into the stand.
Knew you were going there.
I watched that game with Eugene. We saw it unfolding live, and we were like, I can't believe this is real life right now. So
I knew that's exactly where you're going. I was actually on my way to Toronto for a party. So I remember hearing it on the radio, and my buddy Johnny and I, we were like, what the heck is going on? So we got to get Johnny on the show at some point. Some other things I noticed was LaPortia looked good again. He had another touchdown. This guy is just like a total stud. I remember during the draft, and everybody was saying, "Oh, you got to pick up Michael Mayer. You got to get who's the guy from Buffalo that they picked up, Kincaid. You got to get Kincaid." And they stood strong with their pick, and they really liked it at the time, and he's really shown to be like a great draft pick. So I thought that was a really good point that they made there. And overall, it was a good game. They missed Riley Patterson missed a field goal, and they had those turnovers. That pick six, which was in the red zone, they could have put up more points. So it was a good victory. The Lions could have put up more points on the Raiders. But you know what I noticed with the Raiders was they could have been in the game. And you were talking about Devontae Adams earlier. If Garoppolo wasn't overthrowing them every single time, they at least would have had one 60, 70, 80-yard touchdown, 100%.
that was a question I was going to have for you is what did you think Garoppolo looked like? I mean, he's coming back from missing a game or two with a back injury. Was he shaking off the rust? Was he just not at the top of his game, or did the Lions defense just play out of their minds?
I think the Lions defense, they started towards the end of the game. They had so many sacks. It was I think they had 2 sacks in a row at one point, and caught maybe 3 sacks on that drive. And they just the Raiders couldn't do anything. I think if Garoppolo could have established that pass, then maybe they could have opened it up for Jacobs a little bit more. I think it was a little bit of both. He definitely didn't look like he had shaken off the rust, though. Definitely not. No. So it was a good win if you're a Lions fan. I also noticed that there was a 4th and 1, and in my head it was 4th and 1, maybe to kind of seal the game. And in my head I was like, hey, why don't they do the crack attack? Because I hate the push tush. I think it's a stupid name, so I call it the crack attack. I was thinking to myself, why don't they do that right here? Sure enough, they did. They picked up the first down. If it works for Philadelphia, I don't understand how it works for Philadelphia. They've done it like 30 some times in the past couple of years, and the next team's done it like 12. I'm like, how does it only work in Philadelphia? I don't get that. Do you have any kind of understanding?
Yeah, I feel like people don't really understand like just how strong Jalen Hurst is with how much he can squat. I want to say it's like over 600 pounds, right? So you have powerful legs that can drive the pile. You have everybody working in unison. I think over the weekend, actually, they did fail at it because of a fumble. So the announcers had made it a point. Like, this is like one of the first times this didn't work. They were like 90% success rate for the tush push. And actually, they had the fake tush push at one point with the sweep out to DeAndre Swift. That took the defense by surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're going to be surprised, especially when you expect the tush push that had the crack attack or whatever it is, the a little help from a friend. But what
on the rear end.
Oh, I like that. Help from a friend on the rear end. A little long, but okay, we'll workshop that one. So when they're gonna do that every time, they're gonna have success with it, and then they fake it, and Swift runs in. Yeah, it's a good play call. Good on them, Philadelphia. Good on you. Dave, I think we got to wrap this part of tonight's episode out, but we're actually going to move to another part 2 of this episode for this very Halloween special. It's now about 11:09 p.m., so we're getting into the witching hour. Dave, what do you want to do on this episode part 2?
I think in honor of Halloween, we're gonna have a candy special, and we're gonna tie those candies to each team in the NFL based on the area, fan base, the colors of the team logo, and just the general vibe that we get from that particular team.
Wow, Dave, you're just springing this on me now. I really appreciate it. Thanks. You could have maybe told me like a couple hours ago, but good God, I better start thinking there, buddy. Oh, come on. Okay, well, we're going to wrap this out, this first part of this Halloween special. This has been the 4 Birdies podcast. That's 4 birdies. And we'll see you on part 2. Yeah, thanks.